Hi, good evening. Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to our live webinar. An exciting webinar tonight where we take an inside behind the scenes look at our Raptor NestCam. We have with us tonight Dr. Yoav Perlman, who's the director of the BirdLife Israel, what used to be the Israel Ornithological Center, our top senior birder at SPNI, and Dr. Gilad Friedman, who directs this Raptor NestCam project, this insider's look at what goes on with those magnificent birds of prey in their nests, wire cam. We'll get to that in a minute. People are still joining. Welcome, everybody. Wow, already got over 120 people here and climbing. So it's a popular project. I guess a lot of you watch this cam throughout the year, and those who don't will have a real treat and get indoctrinated into what goes on. Want to thank you all for your interest, for support, for being here. Please let us know in the chat where you're from, and say hello. And if you have questions, please put them in the question and answer feature, Q&A down there at the bottom. It would help us. My name is Jay Shofet, coming to you from Tel Aviv. Oops, sorry, not seeing me here. And Yoav and Gilad will be coming to you live from their homes in Maskeret Batya, a little town outside of Tel Aviv. Lovely little place with a great history. Wow, welcome everybody from all the fun and sunny places that you are coming from New Mexico to Naples, Florida, and Pikesville, Maryland, and all over. Really great for us to have everybody here with us tonight, and we will be we're going to be starting in just a minute. Wow, we're up to like 140 people and still coming in. We're also live on Facebook, David, I believe. David Amichai is at his home in Jerusalem doing back office tonight as usual. Thank you, David. And
yes, we're live.
Great. Thanks. And from Manitoba and from Modi'in and all points. I thank you, and Jerusalem, hi Jean and Ruth. We really appreciate everybody's support, especially the work and the hard work of our volunteers and our boards in North America, the United States, and Canada and UK. Welcome to all our board members from New Jersey and Toronto and Austin and California and places all over the continent. And we're really happy everybody's here. It's a tough and challenging time in Israel. We're going to take a little break for an hour and learn about the life of the birds of prey. But they're Israel, as I wrote to you all over the weekend, very challenging times. Mass demonstrations and strikes tomorrow, and they're beginning to be voting on the actual legislation. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep you guys posted on our emails later this week, and until we figure out that we can continue to protect nature in the way we want to protect nature, with the oversight and the watchdog function that governments in general so desperately need from apolitical NGOs like us. SPNI, we're out to protect the flora, fauna, biodiversity, and natural habitats of Israel in every way we can. One of the ways is through birding conservation, and that's what this webinar is going to be about. The nest cams, what goes on there, and how we use that to help protect the birds and their habitats. So Yoav, Gilad, thank you guys both very, very much. And I think we're going to get going. Welcome to everybody one more time, and good morning, evening, afternoon, or wherever you are. It's great to have everybody here. Thanks, Yoav.
Thank you, Jay, for the introduction. David, I think you need to switch my sharing on. Is it on? Okay, I hope it works. Good evening, good morning to everyone around the world. Thank you for joining us. It's a great pleasure again to be part of this webinar series. Today we're going to introduce a really unique project that we're doing. It's one of the more exciting adrenaline-packed projects that we're doing to protect the birds of Israel. I must start and say that I'm not a project leader. Gilad Friedman is with us on the Zoom, and he's the project leader, but Gilad asked me to take the lead in this webinar, and I happily jumped in, but it really is Gilad's work from start to end. He coordinates, he motivates the entire team, and he gets everything done. So today we'll tell you the story of this project. And let's start. Okay. So this project started running in 2016. It started rather small with only 2 nest cams, and today we're up to 6 nest cams. We'll introduce our key players or main stars in a minute. The essence of the project, I mean, the practicality, we put live HD cameras on, well, they're focused on nests of some of our amazing raptors in the wilderness of Israel. We really need those places to be remote because we need the safety of the remoteness. And we document what these birds are doing day and night. The cameras operate day and night, and we broadcast them live to your computer screens, to your phone screens, to your televisions, whatever. And it's really a wonderful project because on the one hand, it allows us to monitor these birds, to learn about their conservation, to learn better about their environment, about their ecological needs. But also it allows us to reach a huge audience because this material really, really is exciting and fascinating. I guess many of you have been introduced to this project before or even watched it. You can watch it live.
Yoav, I'm sorry, but do you think you're screen sharing because we're not seeing anything?
I did ask David to start my screen share. Is it not sharing?
No, we're not seeing anything.
Okay, so maybe I'll stop share and I'll start again. Okay, sorry. Here we are.
Okay, we see it, Yoav.
Okay, that's good. All right.
Go full screen, Yoav.
Is it full screen now?
Not full screen.
You have to double click.
Okay, I'm not sure. I'll just let me double check that I switched the sound on. So, yeah, sound is on. Let's do it. Okay. All right. So let's start again. So again, these are the 6 players that we have in our amazing series of NestCam broadcasts since 2016. We'll start with a quick introductory video. Everything's working, seems to be working a bit slow, but bear with me for a second. Here we go, okay.
While all others are asleep, the silent predator is on the hunt. Its mission, the harassment of its cliffside neighbors. The online Raptor NestCams reveal the fascinating wildlife of Israel. The short-toed eagle, snake hunter. The griffon vulture, nature's sanitarian. The eagle owl, king of the night. The long-legged buzzard, ruler of the open grasslands. An exciting reality show brings higher ratings, and the project is already followed by millions of viewers around the world. Drama is always just around the corner. Love, loyalty, family feuds, passion, and bravery, like the mother buzzard who chased away the martin when it came too close. There's never a dull moment in this secret world. The action continues now the eagle owls are awake. With superpowers including perfect camouflage, multi-directional hearing, killer talents, and night vision, you'd be well advised to avoid them if you can, especially if you're a bat. Don't be fooled by its beautiful orange eyes. It's a killing machine, preying on birds, mammals, and reptiles. The female eagle owl doesn't hesitate and attacks even the large whip snake, which comes too close to the nest and scares it away. Morning in the desert, the griffon vulture feeds on carrion and prevents disease from spreading. Once a common breeder, only 40 pairs now remain in Israel, earning them the dubious honor of becoming an endangered species here. The female will do anything to ensure the survival of her young, even if she has to stand as a sunshade all day for them. Meanwhile, the buzzard parents are busy feeding their hungry offspring. These devoted parents bring 280 prey items to the nest every single season, including everything the open grassland can offer: reptiles, birds, and mammals. But some escape back to nature. While it really gets boring at the buzzard nest, the short-toed eagles are breakfasting on a snake dish that the male extracts at the nest. Suddenly, a wildfire starts close to the nest, in front of the nestling's eyes. The aerial firefighters act quickly to stop the fire, and the eagles are safe. But not for long. Two thieves have come to steal the chick, taking it out of the nest, live on camera. They fail in their attempt, and the chick is left helpless under the nest. Help is needed. The NestCam team has to intervene and returns the nestling in live camera. Our story has a happy ending, as all the nestlings finally spread their wings, including the eagle, which was saved from the fire and the thieves. And the animals caught on camera can have their own nature rave.
Okay. First of all, I want to apologize if any of you couldn't view the video properly. I hope that everyone saw it okay, or at least you got the basic idea. So this was like an introduction to our project. It was produced in 2019, so we've made quite a few advances since then. Our cameras are getting better and better from year to year, and we're following more species now. So let me introduce the current team that we have on the project. So the first species that we're following is the long-legged buzzard. We've been working on this nest, with this nest since 2016. It's a very, very successful, very productive pair. It's the same pair that returns year after year. Almost every year, they manage to rear their chicks successfully. They're really super productive. Very, very active, very prolific hunters. Because they have 3 or 4 chicks every year, they just keep on giving and giving and giving. And it's really non-stop action with these guys. Quite large raptors. The next species is the short-toed eagle or short-toed snake eagle. They are summer visitors to Israel. They're in Africa now, or at least on the way back from Africa. And we're hoping to get them back, our pair, within a week or 2, maybe. That's they usually return in the beginning of March in most years. Very large eagles. They really specialize in snakes. That's their specialty. We've had amazing dramas with them in previous years. In previous years, the male got electrocuted. Here you can hear the female calling, the solitary female calling to him until she had to abandon, and Pine Marten came and picked up the egg. We'll talk a bit more about that later on. So great stories with our short-toed eagles. The European eagle owl, the largest owl in Israel. It really is massive. It's the size of a great horned owl, the one that you're familiar with from North America. Active also during the day. They were introduced in that video. They're really amazing, killing machines. The very active, very, very strong and powerful. The next species is the griffin. Griffins are critically endangered in Israel. Between 40 and 50 pairs only breed nationally, a serious decline. They're very, very important. Really, every chick is important. Their breeding is very, very slow. They breed almost year-round. Also, with them, we've had amazing dramas. The mother got killed by collision with a power line, and I'll play this again. So the mother died, and only the father stayed to feed, and there wasn't enough food, so we supplemented the food using drones that we operated for this task, and eventually the chick fledged, and it was quite amazing. Since 2020, we started broadcasting another critically endangered vulture, the Egyptian vulture. It's also globally endangered, so really they're not doing well in Israel and globally. They are a bit smaller than the griffins, but again, more action. A long-legged buzzard comes to attack the nest, and the mother chases it off. Eventually, last year, what a battle there. And the buzzard is off. Eventually, last year, there was a very, very sad case of Cainism. The larger brother killed and ate its younger brother, the underdeveloped brother. It was a real dilemma whether to intervene or not. And eventually we decided to minimize the disturbance and not to intervene. And intervening is what we did, for instance, last year with the Bonelli's eagle. So last year in 2022 was the first year that we started broadcasting from a nest of the Bonelli's eagles in the desert. Another critically endangered eagle, very, very beautiful bird. They're doing very bad in Israel. Something like 14 pairs breed nationally. And really every pair, every nest is important to protect. And our project is part of the protection net for this critically endangered species. They're very strong, very powerful, very fast, amazing birds. And we are very privileged to be able to follow their nest. Yeah, they breed in deep canyons. They feed a lot on pigeons, which is a bit of an issue. We'll talk about that later. And yeah, last year was a very, very dramatic year. Many mishaps and cases and events happened. And there was some very serious intervention from our team there. And eventually, yeah, we'll talk about that later. So a bit of an introduction, a more formal introduction of our project. So our project, it's really about conservation. Okay, we are working towards conservation of raptors, of these birds of prey, because they're top predators and they represent the entire ecosystem beneath them. So we truly believe and work towards that if we protect the raptors, protect their survival, protect their habitat, we actually manage to protect all the rest of the animals and the other biodiversity that are underneath them in the pyramid. So it's really important to work on these top predators. And we use our cameras really to, first of all, to try and understand what are the threats, what's happening to the breeding raptors, what are the challenges they're facing, and try to understand what we can do, try to direct the conservation efforts to solve or to mitigate those threats. And that's how we try to work on the entire environment, on the entire ecosystem that they use. Another very important objective is the outreach work that we do. We increase the public awareness. We reach huge audiences. We increase the support for raptors, for conservation in Israel. We do a lot of educational work, and it's super important. And I think that by far this is the most broadcasted conservation project coming out of Israel in recent years. Next slide. Okay. And it really is amazing how much we can learn from those cameras. And I just wanted to give you an example of the camera that we put last summer for the first time on the Bonelli's eagle nest. So that's a pair of Bonelli's eagle that year after year we've been monitoring. They fail and fail and fail and fail. So we see them nest building and copulating, but eventually every year the eggs fail. They don't hatch. But we put the camera on their nest to try and understand what's going on, why they're failing. The incubation started irregularly. It was pretty slow. It can work okay, but we were a bit worried. And indeed, we saw that the eggs are not hatching. The eggs were extracted from the nest. And when we're saying extracted, it means rappelling down a mighty cliff to get the eggs out. They were taken to a lab and tested, and we first tried to incubate them in an incubator. but eventually we discovered that they have this mycoplasma, this infection. It's a bacteria that infects the eggs, probably passed on from the mother. This is probably what prevented them from breeding successfully in previous years too. And then through the camera, we managed to detect all kinds of problems that happened during the breeding. So eventually, we replaced the eggs with demi, with like clay eggs, demi eggs. We replaced then the eggs with chicks that hatched in a rehabilitation center that we have. They were raised by parents that can't breed in the wild, and the two chicks were brought to the nest. They were adopted by the adults. It was quite amazing. And then they had all kinds of problems. Trichomonas, we'll talk about that in a second. It's a parasite and different injuries and disturbances. And eventually the two chicks, against all odds, managed to fledge from the nest, and it was quite amazing. So really, there was so much to learn from just this one camera, this whole story that opened up to the world. And it happens to us every time. Every time we put a new camera on a new species, we're amazed how much we can learn from that one camera. So as I said, we really try to use the data collected by the cameras for better conservation. And one thing we can do from the cameras is to learn what those birds of prey eat, what they catch, and they catch what is around them in their habitats. And we can really learn about how the other animals, the other biodiversity is doing through what they collect. This is just what our cameras documented in 2022, in the breeding season of 2022. Look at the number of items, of food items that the different hunting birds bring. So the vultures are a slightly different story, but the eagle owl, the short-toed eagle, long-legged buzzard, and Bonnery's eagle, they actively hunt and bring food to the nest. So we could actually count and see what they bring. And the numbers are really, really amazing. This is an analysis of 5 years of breeding of that same long-legged buzzard nest that we saw. And Gilad sat down and analyzed all the data collected. And there's some very interesting ecological insights that can be inferred from those data. What I wanted to show you in this slide is you can see, the different colors are different years, and then the different food species. Okay, so this is an agama, it's a large lizard, skink, hyrax, pigeon, chukar, mole rat, grass lizard, whip snake, and tortoise. These are only the commoner species brought into the nest by the buzzards. There were many other species that were collected in smaller numbers, but these are the main species. So look, for instance, at these 3 years of the agama, okay, very strong years, and then a drop here with much lower numbers of the agama, and the reverse picture with the pigeons, okay? So 3 years with hardly any pigeons, and suddenly in the 2 slow years for the agama, we have 2 very strong years of the pigeons. There could be a link between those two. What we think is that these 2 years were they had very high rainfall, and the grass was very tall, and the buzzards struggled more to find the agama hiding in the grass, and they shifted their diet more towards pigeons. So that could have been a replacement, and pigeons are an issue. Pigeons carry this parasite, Trichomonas, and they transfer it, it's transferred through the pigeons to the buzzards. without treatment, this Trichomonas kills, develops these abscesses in the gape inside the mouth and the throat, and eventually the animal, the chick, dies from starvation. Yeah, and it's a big issue for the long-legged buzzards. This is the chick that died last year in 2022 from Trichomonas. Directly linked to the pigeons that were brought to the nest. For Bonelli's eagle, pigeons are one of the main components of their diet. Last year, they brought 122 pigeons, and it was not a surprise that the chicks, those chicks that came from the rehabilitation center, they suffered from Trichomonas as well. They were successfully treated, but it's a big challenge with Bonelli's eagles. And yeah, pigeons, so it's mainly domestic pigeons, feral pigeons that carry Trichomonas, and like in almost everywhere else in the world, Israel has far too many pigeons. It's good food, potentially good food for raptors, but they do carry this Trichomonas, so that is a conservation challenge indeed. And our cameras, you saw some of those things in the video at the start. Our cameras document what's happening in the ways of disturbance to the nests, what threats there are. So through the cameras, we detected more than once wildfires that start behind the nest or near the nest, and through the camera we saw this poaching incident that eventually failed. We managed to bring the chick back to the nest, and it did fledge eventually, and all kinds of different threats from litter that flies. So this photograph is of the young vulture last year that jumped prematurely out of the nest because of a plastic bag that flew up in the air. But there are other types of disturbances, advertently or inadvertently, aircraft flying too low and things like that. All kinds of things happen to those nests, and we document all of them through the cameras and then try to direct conservation efforts to prevent them. So as I said, we work very hard to broadcast our work, to reach out to larger audiences, as large as possible, all over the world. It's very big in Israel. It's very big internationally. I think it's one of the most popular NestCam projects that there are in the world. There are a few other very wonderful NestCam projects in the world, but I think our project is very unique and very special, and very technically it's very high quality and high standards. Just look at the numbers here of the people that are reached by single post that was that Gilad wrote. It's bilingual in Hebrew and in English. On the 1st of January, when the Bonelli's eagle returned to the nest for the first time, and we actually opened the broadcast on the first day of this year, and very quickly the numbers passed much more than we'd expected, and they just keep climbing all the time. This video, I'll play it on YouTube. It's one of the most popular videos that we ever had. This is the video from 2006, May 2006. I hope you can see it well. You can see those two eyes here. That's the eagle owl lurking in the dark. And then you'll see it start flying in a second. Here we go. So these are the long-legged buzzard chicks. In the middle of the night, it's a few minutes, half an hour before midnight, just sleeping in their nests. And the eagle is coming in a second, the eagle owl. Here it's flying up. Boom, snatched a chick. The mother and the other chicks just don't have a clue what happened. This is an amazing story. So the eagle owl obviously tried to predate the chick, but somehow the chick managed to escape. It fell down to the bottom of the cliff, and the next day it was still flightless. It managed to climb up the cliff back into the nest, and it was quite an amazing story.
Yeah, but I think the video didn't work.
It didn't work?
No, I think nobody saw it.
Okay. Okay, but anyway, so this video, it really went viral on all social media platforms. It worked amazing, probably viewed by tens of millions of people around the world. And yeah, so usually the most popular, or at least last year, the most popular birds that we had, the most popular nest were the short-toed eagles. Their numbers were really, really huge. So last year, during the breeding season, they reached really, really enormous numbers of engagements. Engagements mean people who actually, on Facebook, who actually like or share, really enormous numbers. And yeah, last year, only on Facebook during the breeding season, more than 4 million people had access to our stories on Facebook. Tens of millions across all platforms from 120 countries. So it's really, really an impressive project. We do a lot of education work on the ground in Israel. So it's not only on social media. Gilad operates a wonderful network of educational activities in schools, physically in schools, but also online classes and a lot of other education programs for clubs, for adults, for teachers. Some schools really take it very seriously. They broadcast the online cameras on the walls of the school or in classrooms. They run 24/7, and it has become a really, really important community of educators and children and families that are supporting the project and are following the project. And it's really important because we don't only talk on the raptors themselves. We try to give the full story of conservation, of why it's important to protect the raptors, why it's important to protect the nature in Israel. And it's really a wonderful, wonderful education initiative. I'll elaborate for a few more minutes about some of the prominent stories of 2022. So, yeah, the Bonelli's eagle, I did talk a bit about the intervention, but yeah, it was really a nerve-wracking first season for the Bonelli's eagles. We had to make so many tough decisions to intervene or not to intervene. We really, in all of our nest cams, we do whatever we can not to intervene. It's really, really important not to, not to threat the success of the breeding. And it's really a tough decision to intervene. We did it for the Bonelli's eagles only because they're critically endangered. And we had to intervene more than once. We had to remove the infertile eggs and put dummy eggs instead. We had to bring those 2 chicks and replace them with the dummy eggs. And then the chicks had trichomonas and they had injuries and all kinds of other stories. It was a very, very intensive season, but eventually the 2 chicks fledged. Sadly, there's no happy ending to this. A few months later, both chicks got electrocuted a few tens of kilometers away from the nest in the Judean plains. Bonelli Ziegel, that issue of electrocution is really one of the major threats to them. We work closely with the Israel Electric Company to try and stop this as quickly as possible. But it's a big, big, big issue. So sadly, those 2 chicks didn't get the chance to mature. But fingers crossed, Bonelli Ziegel are breeding again this year in the same nest, and they have 2 chicks. We didn't have to intervene with the eggs. The eggs were fertile this year. The chicks hatched, and we are keeping all of our fingers crossed that they will succeed this year. Yeah, the short-toed eagle last year was very, very, very popular, this NestCam, mainly because in previous years, amazing dramas happened with that same nest. So as I said, in 2021, the male got electrocuted, but it didn't kill him. He managed to fly back to the nest, survived for another couple of days, but eventually we had to pick him up and take him to hospital. Sadly, he had to be euthanized, but the female tried to incubate the egg for another day or 2, called desperately to her mate, who she didn't know he's dead. All the rest of the world knew. It was really heartbreaking to see her calling. Then the drama continued with another male that tried to join in, and then there were murders there, and it was a very, very dramatic season. And eventually in 2022, things stabilized, and it was an amazing season with a very successful male and a very experienced female. Everything worked well, and the chick fledged, and it was a beautiful season. Yeah, with the long-legged buzzards, it was a difficult season. So as I said, traditionally, they were very, very successful. On most years, they managed to fledge 3 or 4 chicks, which is really, really, really fantastic for this large species. And there's always action there. Last year, in 2022, it was a difficult year. They had cases of trichomonas, and 2 out of the 3 chicks died in early stages. 1 chick managed to fledge. Eventually, it died as well from trichomonas. So it was a difficult year, but yeah, we have hope that this year will be more successful for them. It didn't rain much this year, so maybe they will be more successful with rodents that they'll manage to catch, and maybe less pigeons, and maybe, fingers crossed, this year, no trichomonas in the nest. They are breeding now. Follow them. They're doing okay up till now. Yeah, so I hope that we'll have another good season with the long-legged buzzards. And I'll tell you a bit about the back scenes, the behind the scenes of the project. So, you know, it all looks very glorious and wonderful, and really the pictures coming out of the footage coming out of the project is of very high quality, and the sound is great, and everything works amazing. But it's a very, 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 very huge effort that we put every year in this project with amazing partners that do really James Bond work, I would say, or Mission Impossible, you know, climbing up and down cliffs and trees and whatever. And, you know, there are fires, and the thieves steal our gear, and there are all kinds of mishaps and things that happen during the season. Gilad is 24/7 connected to what's happening in the cameras, responding to every technical issue that there is. And it's really Gilad and the team. I really need to give a thumbs up to our partners from the Nature and Parks Authority, that are main partners in this project. There are other partners as well, but really they do so much hard work, and it's a great honor to work side by side with our friends from Nature and Parks Authority. You can see the figures. This is more or less the annual budget of the project. It's quite an expensive project in our standards, at least. But since 2016, we believe it's the right thing to do. It brings us so much data, so much publicity as well. So we are very confident that we should keep on broadcasting. And yeah, much of our budget is based on donations. We try to raise funds in Israel, we raise funds internationally as well. And your contributions allow us to operate the cameras. Without your contribution in Israel and internationally, we wouldn't be able to operate this amazing project. So yeah, we started the campaign again this year. I invite you all to donate. We have a special feature this year. It's not just donations, but we do offer our supporters a reward for significant donations. Paskalis Dougalis is a Greek wildlife artist, I think he's one of the best wildlife artists in Europe, at least. He now lives in Germany. And we discovered that he is a very, very keen follower of the project. We just saw suddenly that he started to post online drawings that he did based on our footage. He just sits in front of the screen and works, draws our birds and does this amazing artwork. And very, very generously, wonderful Paskalis donated or offered us the opportunity to use his artwork, and we give high quality prints of his artwork. We'll send them over to you for your donations if you decide to donate and support our project. You can get one of these shipped to you at home, hang it up in your living room, and it's really a wonderful reward, I think, to our supporters. And thank you again to Paskalis for everything he does for our project. Next slide. Okay. Yeah, so we're nearing the end of the presentation. Again, I want to express my deep gratitude to all of the partners that are taking part, the organizations and the individuals themselves. It's a very, very large team. About 60 people take part in the team. Many of them are volunteers, and we receive support from different organizations. And it's really, really important to acknowledge the hard work of the team day and night, responding to every issue, bringing to us those wonderful birds online. And yes, thank you, all of you, for listening, for joining this webinar. And yeah, please consider contributing to the project. It's really, really important. It's more than important. It's really crucial for the continuation of the project. If you don't know where the project is, or you want to see the cameras, I'll go up one slide. Come on, go up. Okay, so here at the bottom are the links You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on the BirdLife Israel website, 24/7, day and night. You can watch our cameras, 6 cameras at the peak of the season to choose from. So please do follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. And yes, please consider to contribute to us. It's really, really important and much appreciated. And that's it from me. I think we have time for some questions. Gilad, are there, or David, are there any questions?
Yeah. Yoav, you're not seeing
Yes.
the questions. I thought you just look at them here. Volunteer opportunities in the U.S. and Israel to support the work of SPNI. Maybe you can talk about a lot option.
Yeah. So sure. Yes, we have bird observatories in Eilat and in Jerusalem. If you have any experience in bird banding, bird ringing, and join our efforts in Israel. But there are many other opportunities to volunteer. Actually, for the project, Gilad uses quite a few volunteers who help him, for instance, with translating some of the stuff into Hebrew. So yeah, please do be in touch with us. There are many things that you can do as a volunteer in Israel.
Question about the underlying problems of the pesticide use and how it affects the bird's health, implications of all that. Israel's a big pesticide user. Is that true?
Yes. So the main species that are affected from pesticides or poison are the vultures. Vultures in Israel, that's one of the main reasons why they're critically endangered. So poisoning is really one of the huge threats. We are working very, very intensively with the Nature and Parks Authority to all kinds of different ways to try and prevent those cases of poisoning. I don't know if you saw the videos of the vulture. It has those tags on the back, and many of our vultures are carrying satellite tags, and they're monitored 24/7. And whenever they land in a strange place or they're inactive for too long during the day when they're supposed to be active, immediately alarm bells go off, and teams on the ground speed to that point to try and see if there's a poisoning event. And indeed, we locate that way poisoning events. Just last year, we had a very, very tragic event with 14 vultures that got killed in a poisoning event. And that happens almost every year. And almost every other day, there are smaller poisoning cases. So it's a major issue for wildlife in Israel. We're working hard in that direction, but it is indeed a big challenge.
Yoav, what kind of enforcement activities are there to protect the raptors under the law? And are those enforcement activities adequately funded? Okay,
so like all wildlife in Israel, raptors in Israel are fully protected, directly and indirectly as well. Certainly for the most threatened species, the vultures, the eagles, some large falcons we have breeding in Israel, Lanner falcon and Barbary falcon. We give them closer protection. They do suffer from poaching. There is some poaching issue and other disturbances. So for instance, for the eagles, golden eagles, Bonelli's eagle, every nest has a guard, actually a guard that's guarding the nest during the breeding season physically. So we do invest, the whole Porsim Kanaf team, but it's a lot of work done by the INPA. Really, there's huge effort to protect those raptors breeding in Israel.
Okay, thanks. The poaching, it's for feathers, black market sales, falconry, all of the above.
I guess for falconry or just for keeping, yeah, it happens quite a lot in the Middle East, I'm afraid, and also in Israel. It spills over to Israel. Yeah, we're trying to prevent it as much as we can, but it is quite a big issue.
And how exactly do the birds get poisoned?
So what usually happens is that usually sheep farmers or rangers or beef farmers, cattle farmers, sorry, they throw carcasses lead with poison in order to poison wolves or stray dogs that are attacking their herds, and then the vultures or other predators are inadvertently poisoned. So that happens usually in that vicious cycle.
How do you keep the NestCam locations mostly secret to protect the raptors?
As I said, first of all, we try to choose very remote locations that there's hardly any human disturbance there. And also we try to put the cameras wherever we can sort of across the canyon, like in a long distance away from the nest. We have like zoom lens that can zoom in and give us a clear picture from a distance. And also we use all kinds of techniques, for instance, that we learned from the military, how to camouflage and to hide our cameras and other gear, so they're not obvious and won't get stolen. Sometimes we do have issues that cables get stolen or other components of our systems, but usually it works quite well.
Great. Well, Yoav, thank you very, very much. Gilad, thank you. And David, in your home in Jerusalem, it was a fascinating webinar. It's a great insight, and it's a great diversion for the stuff that's going on here. There were a couple questions about the missions in November. I don't know, do you guys have dates for the festival in November? Because we're going to coordinate our trip around it.
Yeah, I don't remember it off the top of my head. I'll communicate it with you. But yeah,
so a couple people will get those dates out probably in the next week or two. Both for our general week-long Israel Discovery Nature Israel trip, and that'll lead into probably the Crane Festival in the Hula in November. Probably the second week and third week in November, if it's as usual. So hope to see everybody there. We'll be advertising that. Please join us next week for a very special webinar. We're having our CEO, Iris Hahn, and our director of the legal department, Asaf Rosenblum, will be talking about SBNI's response to the judicial reforms being proposed by the government now, and also the arrangements law and some of the real tricky things that the current government is trying to pass through the Knesset. And that'll be next week, Sunday night. And I believe we have another birding webinar the week after that. So it's week after week here with the live webinars at this exact time, 8 p.m. Israel time, noon in New York, and 9 in California. So everybody, thank you very much for joining from all over. Thank you, Yoav, Gilad, and David. Signing off from Tel Aviv. Good night, everybody. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.